Dobbs and I probably get more of a kick out of training a winner than riding a winner.
I think just if you try and keep them horses healthy, which is a very difficult thing to do, which I've realised now, then they'll do the work for you.
It's a real quiet family atmosphere here, as you've probably seen this morning.
That's always the ambition, is running the big races, have horses good enough to go to the festival. That's any trainer's dream.
Set in the spectacular Northumberland countryside, Hazelrigg Racing is home to Rose and Tony Dobbin and their select team of both staff and horses. Following a breakthrough campaign 2 seasons ago, including a first grading success courtesy of Johnny's Sofa, last season was one to forget as the yard became ravaged with a debilitating virus. However, with state-of-the-art facilities, the Dobbins are as best placed as any in the country to bounce back. You had a pretty amazing career in the saddle, Rose, point to pointing and under rules, and a fair few winners as well.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I was just very, very lucky. I had a huge support from my parents. They had a lot of nice horses and I rode them all on the whole. So I had quite a short career, but I was very lucky. I had a great time with it. And
going back to the very beginning, what was your first involvement in racing? I know you were down south, you were looking around a few yards.
I mean, my very first person I rode out for was Peter Monteith when I was up at Edinburgh, who obviously sadly has passed away. But that's where I started off, and then after Edinburgh I went down to Lambourne and I had a spell with Nicky Henderson, and I was going out with Ed James, and I worked for him for a couple of years and also rode out for Charlie Edgerton and Stan Moore, but quite soon I wanted to get going with the riding and all the point-to-pointers. We started getting a few point-to-pointers up here with Rona and Peter Elliott. And then I got going under rules, and that's when we went over to Nicky Richards.
Yeah, and then you had all those winners. It was almost an exact split, wasn't it? About 100 winners, 50 point-to-pointing, 50 under rules?
Yeah, I think just more under rules. I think I had 56 under rules, yeah, and I rode for 100 winners, yeah.
And then your riding career came to an end, and what about starting training? How long were you thinking about that?
I mean, I was riding and training at the same time for a short spell, but not very long. Actually, it was on Roll On. I remember I was riding him at Kelso one day. First day we had runners from here, and I got down to the start, and I hadn't done my homework at all. And I realised that you can't really do both. I don't think to the full professional extent. You want to give them both 100%. So I stopped riding then. But I had a great spell at it, and then the training took over, obviously. I'd been thinking about doing it for quite a few years before that.
Does it help you in the role now, the fact that you used to ride?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a different kettle of fish. I mean, I'd say Dobbs and I probably get more of a kick out of training a winner than riding a winner, because so much more goes into it. You know, when you're on a horse, you might love that horse and have a great thrill riding a winner, but when you get off the horse, that's it, job done. Whereas training, there's obviously a lot more goes into it. And yeah, I think the whole of mine anyway, my riding career all fed into this, especially times with the trainers that I rode out for and worked with, from Nicky Henderson to even Rona and Peter and the Borders, and especially Nicky Richards at Greystoke. It's just you're always seeing all their methods and how they get their horses fit and how they look after them, and it all feeds into what you're going to do when you set up.
Neil, you and Rose and Tony, your paths met a lot of years ago at Greystoke.
Yeah, I think I've known Tony for 30 years maybe. He was just a young lad at John Joe's, and I went to Gordon's just about the same time. I think I was there about maybe a year before Tony. Yeah.
And as a jockey yourself, you ride a few winners?
Yeah, I had I think nearly 30, mainly jumping. I had one on the flat for David Chapman when I first left school, and then I went jumping, and mainly at Gordon's for about, I was 20 odd years, 25 years nearly at Greystoke, I think.
And then a spell in Ireland, was it?
3 years with David Watchman's, yes, before I come here. That was good experience, seeing a different side of it, Group 1 horses, etc. But then Tony rang me about the job, and it was nice to come home. So here I am, yeah.
And we've seen you about the place today, busy. What is your role?
Well, I'm officially head lad or whatever. So I'm here every day and in charge of most of the things, feeding, etc., medical side of it and all that, keeping the lads going.
Is there any Greystoke's methods employed here?
Yeah, there is actually. We try and school on a Monday, which we used to in Greystoke, and Mondays and Thursdays are sort of quieter days, so we tend to school in them days. And we work on a Wednesday and a Saturday like they do in Greystoke. So there is a little bit, which we try to.
Rose, your name's on the licence, but obviously it's a big partnership between you and your husband Tony. How do the roles work?
Yeah, very much. As you say, my name's on the licence, but we do it together full time, which has its challenges, but we get through those, and I think we make a good team. I'd be the sort of slightly more relaxed one in the yard, and he'd be the one better at keeping the lads in line, I'd say. We would train the horses together. We'd have the similar ideas of what the horses need to be doing day in, day out, and we would do the board together very much, and the work, organising the work and the schooling. I would be more in the office looking for races and doing a bit more admin, and I usually run those ideas past him, and when we're at the races we'd go through how the horses should be ridden together, but he would very much speak to the jockeys and give them their instructions. As obviously he's the much more experienced jockey.
I mean, well, they kind of know how Rose and I like the horses to be ridden, and they're all good riders. I would just leave it to them, and I think they respect that. And if there's something I think they've done something that they shouldn't have done, or vice versa, then I will say it. But I think it works well, and Rose kind of leaves the riding things to me. But like I say, they know how we like our horses to be ridden. It's just to be kept simple, and so it's up to them.
Seen some nice riders this morning, including Conor O'Farrell and Craig Nicholl, two jockeys that you use.
Yep, the two boys come in here most weeks, and Craig's got another job now with Straight Line Construction. He's their main rider, so we'll still use him when we can, obviously. But then we've got Conor as a backup, and we've a lad in the yard, Bill Shanahan, who's hoping to get going. He's a good lad, claims 7, works very hard at his weight and his fitness. And we've another young boy called Ben Smolt, who is going to ride his first point to point this year. So we've got a great team of young lads and lasses in the yard, and we're very happy to have them. Very, very lucky.
And just a couple of seasons ago, you had your best season, and then of course last season, dare I say, a bit of a write-off.
Last year was a nightmare, but it was learning. It was very much we've learnt a lot from it. You look back on it it's really easy to look back on things with hindsight, but we were slightly chasing our tail from the start. We had a horrible virus at the start. Well, when I say horrible, it was horrible in that it was silent. You couldn't see anything wrong with them. The scopes were good, the bloods were good. They just weren't running right. And then it was just a catalogue of errors after that. The flu epidemic hit and they all had to have a flu jab. And I feel like, looking back at it now, I think their systems were low and their immunity was impaired. And then they all got given the flu jab and it just knocked them for 6. And then you could see problems. That's what they then started coughing and having snotty noses. And it was just one thing after another. But our owners were amazing. They were so patient. Every other week I'd be sending out emails going, we're doing this now, we're doing that. We're trying this, we're trying that. And sorry, we're going to have another quiet couple of weeks. And they all just took it so well. Everyone was like, well, what can you do? You've just got to take it on the chin. These things happen. But it is very boring to go through for everyone, staff, owners, us. But main thing is we seem to have come back this season in good form. I was really nervous coming into the autumn because you don't know how that's going to carry on, how it's going to affect them this season. We really looked after them. We didn't run them, we didn't work them too hard, but you don't know until you start running them. And so it's just such a relief. It's such relief that they've come back in such good form.
I don't think we're there yet, but we're thankfully they are running well, and they look much better. And you know, for what we've ran now, we haven't had that many runners, and they've been consistent, which is what they weren't being at all. They've been consistent now to begin with for the season. So if that can continue through the year, it'll be great.
They certainly look happy and healthy, what we've seen today anyway.
Yeah, even in that rain, but there we are.
and it's not normally like this here, so you tell me anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly. As I said before, I lived in Carlisle, Cumbria area for 20 years, and it never stopped raining. And then I moved over here, and there's half the amount of rain that you get from over there. So, but not today.
Looking around here, facilities-wise, it's all very high spec.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, we designed it from, obviously it's an old yard that we've refurbished, but everything was thought out, and we're just incredibly lucky to be in such a beautiful place and in such an amazing yard. It's just great.
We're lucky to have the shed, because it does everything. If it's raining like that this morning, we stay in there, we school in there, we break the youngsters in there. Once you get in, once you close them doors, they can't get out. So it's a great facility to have that, it really is.
We've got everything we could wish for, really. It's great facilities. I mean, I've been seen all around the world or whatever, and it's as good as anywhere. But you need the horses, and touch wood, we seem to got some nice young ones this time, so hopefully after last year we can turn it round.
And I know you want to pay tribute to your parents for obviously the riding career and what we have now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've already said it about the riding, and especially with the training. I couldn't do it without their support. They've always had a lot of horses with us, and it was my father's idea to make the yard here at Hazelrigg. And he is a man of very high standards, and you'll have seen what standard that yard is at, and that's down to him. It has to be absolutely A1 with him. And so that's why we've got such a beautiful yard. And then obviously they've carried on supporting us now that we're training, and they've got what my father would say, far too many horses, but it's great for us that we've got so many nice horses for them.
But it's not all about your parents' horses, because you're keen to get it out there that you're not just a private trainer.
Of course not. No, I mean, the ironic thing is, Dad's got a large proportion of the horses here, but I probably look after the outside owners more than him, but because that Mum and Dad are so easy to train for. They're, as long as they're up to date what's going on and where they're running and what's going on with the horses, I see them often. They live 10 minutes away, so I try and make the outside owners feel very welcome and well looked after. And what Dobbs and I realise is it's such an expensive hobby. We try and make it as the most fun it could possibly be, whether that's coming here to have a good breakfast and have fun in the yard, to going to the races and having a good day there, whether however the horse runs, and obviously getting the best out of the horse is the most important thing, but we want to make it a fun experience.
And numbers wise, horses, you're about bang on 50?
Yeah, about 50, and delighted to be that many. Maybe we'd expand a little bit at some stage, but I think 50 to 60 to 70 quality horses is any trainer's dream.
What about ambitions or dreams of places to go and races to win?
Oh, well, the dream is always to, be running in the big races. The difficult thing is finding the horses good enough. We're lucky, we've got a lot of nice young horses coming through, and you just have to keep hoping that they're going to be good enough to run in those big races and take you to Cheltenham or Aintree. But yeah, that's always the ambition, is to run in the big races, have horses good enough to go to the festival. That's any trainer's dream.
Are you the type of people that set targets?
No, not particularly. I mean, everyone, I think, would like to better their previous season, and we did it a couple of times, and then last year was a complete wipeout. So as long as we beat last season's target, which we're on course to do, obviously, but I think just if you try and keep them horses healthy, which is a very difficult thing to do, which I've realised now, and then they'll do the work for you.
With last season's virus now hopefully firmly behind them, Rose and Tony have high hopes for their string in the current campaign, and recent performances on the track continue to fill them with confidence. None more so than the heartwarming and victorious return to action of Johnny Sofa Air, following nearly 2 years on the sidelines.
He's had a history of a suspensory ligament injury, and it just means we can canter him in the morning and then do a bit more in the afternoon in the pool as well. Just gets a bit more work into them without obviously putting the pressure on the legs and the feet.
And the fact he hasn't run for so long before he made that fantastic comeback, I mean, he's so fragile. This is an absolute godsend.
Yeah, it's great. Like I say, it means you can do plenty of work with him on the gallop, but as well, on top of that, you can get a bit more work into him in here without putting the extra pressure on the old injury. Similarly, we've got Some Rain, who's coming back from having a kissing spine operation, and he's done loads of swimming in here. And you can't get them fit in here, but you can add to the fitness. And importantly, if they're lame, you can keep them ticking over in here. You know, if they're lame with a foot problem or a knee problem or that sort of thing, you can just keep them ticking over in here.
And he seems to love it.
He's a good swimmer. They're not all brilliant swimmers. Some of them you wouldn't persevere with, but he's very good. The other day, they said it was like he was doing a bit of work. He was just swimming around here normally like this, and then suddenly he got a sprint on, and it was like he was doing a bit of work in here.
So
whereas other ones get lazy, and you'll see the marks on the centre. That's from us slapping the side, going, "Come on." You have to like click them up a bit because they realise they can float after a while.
Yeah. And using Johnny Sofa as an example, how often would he come for a swim?
We'd probably swim him 3 times a week in the afternoons, and then other horses, obviously, if they're lame, they'd swim every day. It just depends, individual. You know, they're all individual.
And on the subject of Johnny Sofa, we're looking at him now. Fantastic comeback, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. It was a complete dream. It was very emotional. It was a long road back to recovery, and he did it in some style. Yeah.
Have we set a date and a race for the next one?
The idea is we're going to try and get him qualified for the Grand National, and he needs to be placed over 3 miles. So we'll have a go at the rehearsal, and if he's not placed there, get him placed somewhere else over 3 miles.
And just finally on Johnny Sofa, he's clearly a horse you have a lot of affection for.
Oh, he's a star. I mean, it's a shame he's been fragile, but in between the injuries, he's done so well for us. And he's just such a gutsy horse and tough, and he's a really fun horse to be able to have.
Johnny Sofa's owner had a dream a few years ago of running Johnny Sofa in the 2020 Grand National, so there's half a chance that might happen, you know, because he's gone up in the handicap a bit now and then.
The dream's still alive.
The dream's still alive, but we'll see. You know, he's a very brittle horse, is Johnny. So we've got to look after him.